Moving on the map to the state of California and a white-hot murder case back in the spotlight after years and years.
Nearly 24 relatives set to gather in Los Angeles tomorrow, putting pressure on the district attorney to officially recommend resentencing in their case.
A stunning turn for the Menendez brothers as LA's district attorney announces his office is looking into new evidence that could set the brothers free by Thanksgiving.
This is all any of my wife's friends are talking about, this silly show about these two guys that killed their parents 50 years ago almost. I mean, who cares? It is the most dominant thing. You think everyone's talking about politics and obsessed with the race? Unfortunately, no. It's these two guys, Lyle and Eric. Lyle and Eric. I remember this case. I remember they were adults and they blew their parents away. The lawyers are very clever. You see, they look like Giorgio Armani models in this picture, right? Well, for the second trial, because there was a mistrial in the first, they dressed them up like they were in 4th grade. That was actually a clever move that backfired. Now these guys are in the joint. It's been many, many decades. I don't know how they swung it. They're probably psychos, right? Psychopaths, sociopaths. They have manipulative powers because Kim Kardashian, of all people, is championing their cause. Whatever, it's on Netflix and Hulu and Tutu and all that stuff. And you know what's not out there? The assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The questions, they haven't even been asked. The right questions have not been asked. They all seem to have gotten away with it. Now, 2 assassination attempts. And Crooks, was that his name? I forget, right? Such a long time ago. Crooks. What happened to this guy? I guess it's all over and done with, right? Anybody on social media, on X, it's a really great place to be. This guy, Dom Lucre, whatever his name, Dom Lucre, breaker of narratives. Hello, everyone. My name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. I just randomly tried to kill a president of the most powerful country in the world and was even able to shoot him, but somehow the media forgot about me in less than a week. I obviously worked alone and not worth remembering, right? Nothing to see here, folks. Come on, we need more information. The trail has gone cold. They've got the phones that they can't break open. Do we have an FBI or not? It's fascinating. Donald Trump, twice now, the victim of an assassination attempt, and they give him a hard time when he says this.
Trump's use of the term enemy within is one of the most harrowing things. And this rhetoric, I think, is something that's very much an escalation from Donald Trump.
Nervous. They're so nervous at the New Yorker magazine. President Trump is talking about the enemy within the United States. And absolutely, Antifa, the woke, crazy mob, and prosecutors who use the law in a corrupt way to take down a president. I think he's on pretty solid ground to say enemy within. Remember the assassination attempt again? Enemy within, sure enough. And the guy's been arrested, what, 5 times? Enemy within. He has every right to say that, to believe it, and to fight against it. They're even trying to cancel him over this. Anyway, he's uncancelable. He is unstoppable, especially with his wingman, Vance. Now, he said something, excuse me, just one moment. He said something great, and I don't hear it enough from our leaders. This man is a Christian, and it's okay to talk about that stuff. It really is. And he's going to talk about it for a while here, all right? I want you to take it all in if you don't mind.
There is a lot of wisdom in the Christian faith and in the Christian tradition, a lot of solutions to the problems that confront our country. And unfortunately, there is a lot of leadership coming from Washington that is in a very, very dark place. The Kamala Harris administration has been a chief opponent of freedom of conscience, of free speech, and of religious liberty in this country. They were labeling parents who are going to school board meetings to raise their voice domestic terrorists in their own country. Children taken from their parents because their parents won't consent to life-altering gender reassignment surgery. Tim Walz, as governor of Minnesota, pursued legislation that would do abortion right up to the moment of birth. We can disagree about abortion policy, but that is just sick. And I think we as Christians are called to be a light in a dark place. The core part of Christian social teaching in our country is that we want to build strong communities, we want to build strong neighborhoods, and we want to build strong families. But you can't have strong neighborhoods and strong communities if the federal government is ordering teachers to do something against the will of parents. Donald Trump and I believe the First Amendment protects your right to live your faith as you see fit and raise your children in the values that matter to you. Millions of church-going Christians will not vote in the 2024 election unless we convince them to. I want you to do everything that you can to get out there and fight for this country and make sure people get out to vote. They want us despairing. They want us depressed. They want us disconnected from this political process. But our faith is in the Lord God Almighty, and our God is a God of hope. So let's go win this thing, and let's do it together. God bless you guys, and thanks for having me.
Wow. Beautiful, strong, and a Christian in a prominent place talking about faith. We don't see that all too often. When Joe Biden, the first devout Catholic president in a long time, right? They bragged about that. He just cracked jokes about how well he knew the Pope, and nothing. This can change and heal our great land, I do believe. All right, on to the big interview. You heard about that, right? On Fox News, Bret Baier sitting down with Kamala Harris for what, her third interview? The big interview, the big interview. It's kind of pathetic that, you know, she should be doing hundreds of these things. She should have been doing them over the past year and a half. The whole damn thing is a scam. Having said that, I thought Bret Baier did a pretty good job. I give him a B+, a high B+, maybe a very low A-. There's a couple of things, good and not so good. She was a disaster. But before we get to the interview, how absurd is this situation? She becomes a candidate. This is July, and then in August, she still hasn't done an interview, right? And what does she say? When will you do what every candidate does, basically the moment they announce and before they announce it? For 2 years, you just do it. You're politicians. You're supposed to like doing this stuff. Check it out.
Madam Vice President, there's been a lot of questions about when you're going to sit down for your first interview since being the nominee. Do you have any update on that?
I've talked to my team. I want us to get an interview scheduled before the end of the month.
Thank you. What do you make about it?
Before the end of the month. How big of you? On August 8th, you promised to do one at the end of the month. You should. It's insane. This whole thing, this master plan that they came up with to bring this woman over the finish line, and they're getting away with it in a way. CNN, they did it at the end of the month. Kinda, right? Just in the nick of the time. Remember that one? Then they sat down with some local news guy a couple of weeks later, okay? 60 Minutes. More recently, this is not transparency, right? This is the Biden redux. Remember the Biden campaign in 2020? In the basement? This is the same type of scam. I knew they were going to pull one. I didn't know it would be this big. I didn't know it would be this in your face, this insulting to the American people, but here they go. All right, so tonight was on Fox News, Bret Baier and Kamala Harris, and man, she got angry.
Talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
Angry and dishonest. President Trump does not talk about that. They are lying about him all the time. Think President Trump threatens people who criticize him with arrest? When does that happen? He gets criticized every microsecond of every day from billions of people across the planet. It doesn't stop him. He's not talking about that. She is lying. All right, what was the other thing? Let's see what happens here. SOT number 2.
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden. that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
A fact, a fact. Actually, the people who have come out against him from his administration were deep staters who want to stay in the deep state, who are and did not know President Trump before politics. They have their own agenda. But again, credit to Bret, the way he asked the question. And I want to go back to that moment when he brings it up. And she is kind of stumped at first.
But you
call
Donald Trump.
The significance of that.
You call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Bret.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden.
That was a good moment, huh? Just like Joe Biden. And then you saw the answer. We played that already. And then she tries to steer it to Trump. This woman is totally unqualified. I see it again. The liberals are saying this was great. It wasn't. It really is wild how we see things so differently. Or they refuse to see the truth. That's more like it. All right. How many more do we have? 2? All right. Hit me with the other one.
What do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion, that Iran posed a threat to Israel. I was there, most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself.
Like a defensive 4th grade teacher talking to, I don't know, at a parent-teacher conference or something. And I was there on that occasion, and just the basic building blocks of, it's like a job description. You know what I mean? I was in the Situation Room. All right, this is a part where I thought Bret was a little bit, they're both on script, even Bret a little bit, but let's watch.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back
to
Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's administration that Iran
regime,
that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about.
Yeah, that's the part I didn't like. Just Bret doesn't have to say critics say and critics say this. Just say it. Look at her, put that script down, and hammer away. Easy for me to say, right? He's got the 16 people in there, and they're glaring at him and saying a wrap up. So, all right, does this redeem Fox News? Not really.